All right, hey guys. Well, this week we are working with oil pastels, and you will be creating an oil pastel bird. Oh, I gotta take that out of the packaging. So yes, you will be creating an oil pastel bird. We are going to be doing, it's kind of an impressionistic bird. You can make things pretty realistic with oil pastels. It's just difficult. So I do not expect beginners such as yourselves to be able to do anything in super hyper realistic detail with oil pastels, because it's just not that's not a realistic expectation for a teacher to have when you guys are starting out. So impressionistic birds is what we're doing today. Okay, I did this one a while back. Really what I'm looking for in this assignment is color. I want thick color applied. I want it nice and creamy. You'll understand what I'm talking about once you start playing around with oil pastels when I talk about creamy. So these are the oil pastels that we will be using. They are just from Hobby Lobby. They're just Master's Touch oil pastels, a set of 24. You'll each get a set to use, but you can use anything else if you have them at home. I have this set of Pastel Arts oil pastels. They're good. And I also have a set of really nice oil pastels. They're not quite professional brand, but they are definitely a step up. Okay, these are Paul Rubens. It's a set of 48. They're actually pretty cheap on Amazon. They're about $25 if you bought this set, and they are night and day difference. But for all we need, the Master's Touch will be fine. So if you find that you love oil pastel, get yourself some of these. They're pretty great. All right, so oil pastels. They are kind of like oil paint in a stick. They really don't ever dry fully. Oil paints, they'll eventually dry. Like, it'll take months and months and months, but eventually they'll dry. Oil pastels just always seem to have just a little bit of something there. You know, I did this one in a year ago, and I can still, look, I can still pick up some yellow. So they really just don't ever set up. And you'll usually always have a little bit of residue on the back side of a page that is on it, or yeah, so they never really set up. I put them I put this assignment in that little plastic, and it kind of like distorted the plastic. So yeah, it's just a medium that won't dry, so don't expect it to dry. If you like what you do, you can put it in a frame with glass on it, and then you'd be fine. So just keep that in mind. All right, so we are going to be working on pastel paper today. Pastel paper is a toothier paper. You can probably kind of see it. You can see where I didn't quite push it in enough. You can kind of see the tooth of the paper, as opposed to this paper. I hope that zooms in. It's very smooth, and so you can't see really any tooth. You know, you can't see, there's not much tooth there. Pastels will work on normal paper. If you really had to, you could do your project in your sketchbook. I did a full hour just to try it out, and it will work. It doesn't get creamy. It doesn't lay down nice and thick how it should. So it is doable in the sketchbook, but it is not preferred. It's not the best place. It just gets kind of smudgy, and it just doesn't look I mean, this is the Master's Touch, which you'll be using, and it's really kind of streaky. It just doesn't smooth out nice. So once you work on pastel paper, you'll understand what I'm talking about. All right, so in class, we will have done, or we are going to do, whichever, if you're watching this before or after class, we're going to do apple, so you can kind of get a feel for the crayons. And there are some different ways to blend. So there is our trusty blending stump, which is just, this actually is probably one of the better methods. This is, this one right here is using the blending stump. I did this little guy, but this is too soft. So this doesn't work. This just kind of pushes it around on the paper and it just gets clumpy and gross. So that's a no-go. I tried with a rubber pencil eraser and that was a no-go. I found these at Hobby Lobby. I'm not 100% sure what they are. They're a hard rubber and they work fantastic. Okay, so that was this one. Blends it really well. So that one's good. I tried a Q-tip and that was a no-go. Nope, don't use it. It's worthless. And then I used my finger, which was this one, and that was fantastic. The reason your finger works so well is because the heat of your finger kind of softens the oil. And so then it's able to get into the paper really well. So that's what I have for that. Yeah, and this one was done on, this is slick paper. This is just construction paper. And it works okay, but you can kind of see the streaky, clumpy. But it's not the end of the world. So if this is what you have, that's what you have. But again, pastel paper is probably the best paper. The pastel paper I am bringing for you to class has some different colors in it. So we have cream, we have brown, we have blue, we have green. So you'll each get to choose, a color. I won't have, there's only 4 of each paper, so not everybody can have blue. But we'll have different colors. So the advantage to that is if you do have some seepage, you can see the background. It's not just stark white. You're not just seeing a stark white background. So it's kind of muted, it's toned down. It still looks really nice, even if you miss some spots. So that's why we're doing that. All right, have I explained everything enough? I think so. All right, well, I picked green paper for today. And I picked this bird. So it's not a very colorful bird, but I do he's got a very nice red helmet. He's got red eyeball, which I think is kind of curious. And, he's kind of got a warm little belly. So, and then we need to discuss black. Black is the kind of an invasive color. So black is always last. If you know nothing about oil pastel, black is last, because you will make a terrible mess out of your project if you try to put black in too early. Because oil pastels is a lot of rubbing with your fingers, and fingers are big, and so they're not super accurate, which is why this little thing is pretty cool, because it gets right up to the edge and you don't have to worry about it. So black is last. Always remember that. So I'm going to do this guy, and I'm just going to try and make him as colorful as I can because he's kind of cute. My mom had a bunch of these, so I grabbed them. You can find bird pictures anywhere. You can find them online. You can find them in magazines. You can take a picture of a bird in your yard. Yeah, wherever you find a picture, grab it and draw it. All right, and I think that's all I needed to talk about. So give me a second and we will get started working on our bird. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is sketch in my bird. Now I want my oil pastel to fill my page, but we're going to do something a little different. We're not going to go edge to edge. We're going to do kind of a rough border. Let me see. Okay, so this one does not go all the way to the edges. It has kind of its own a frame, and it's just kind of an organic raw edge. So that's what we're doing today. I didn't leave much at the bottom. I wish I would have left a little bit more, so I'm going to try and remember to do that today. But kind of once you start get going, it's easy to forget. So we are doing an irregular border. Another thing we are going to do is we are going to sketch in with a light gray. This, we're not going to use pencil. Pencil will smudge terribly. So we're sketching everything in with this light gray. And that's just what we're going to do. It's easy to fix. If you make a mistake, it's not really a big deal. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to start and get my my branch in here. All right, so he's kind of sitting right next to it. He's kind of looking to the side. Okay. He's got little feet here that we'll add in. But we don't have to worry about that quite yet. Okay, let's see. So his beak, he's got a nice big beak, and it kind of comes down like that. And he has this big eye. Oops, that's not in the right spot. Alright, and I'm going to kind of rough in his hood here. So he's got a nice little thing going on here. Okay, doesn't have to be perfect. And with this gray, a lot of it will disappear. Actually, it'll disappear. Let's see. Okay, then we have this wing. That kind of comes. So this is all my black and white. So this actually wing I am gonna do probably last. It's got kind of this. It looks like a dirty belly, but I don't think it is. I think it's just. Okay. And we can't erase pastel, so, but we can go over it with other colors. So don't worry about, you know, if you did something that you're not crazy about. This is completely opaque, and it will cover. If you take a look at this, like I did white over pink. Now we are using the Master's Touch, so it's not quite as good. I treated myself to some really fancy ones. These are LLA, and they're like $3 a piece. So I have 2 of them, and I have 2 blacks. But actually, the Paul Rubens white was the best. So Pentel's white, not so great. I was a little surprised, but it's okay for, say, dotting the eye. You can see that. If you need to put a dot in the eye for a highlight, you know, I did a highlight in that eye. It works for that if you're putting on a nice big gob of it, but to like draw over the color, it didn't work so great. But this is opaque, and so you can draw over, and you can draw over with lighter color, and it covers well. So don't feel like you have to be perfect the first time. It's funny because every medium's different. Now you can't do this with watercolor. Like you have to, you know, think about the highlights beforehand. In acrylic paint, you can do the light afterwards, but not, you know. So it's just every medium is different, and you just have to play around and find ones you like. All right, well, my bird, there's a whole lot of white in him, but I don't think I'm going to start with white. I think I'm going to start with, I suppose I better sketch in some of this snow too, huh? I really like that moss. I don't know if I'll put moss on there or not. We'll see. So I'm going to start getting in some of this color. Now I'm moving with the shape of the bird because it just, even though it's impressionistic, you still want it to be, you don't want to, you know, totally mess up the eye. The eye will still recognize it as how it's moving. All right, and so I'm just going to start blocking in some of this color. I will go in for more detail later. And you have 24 colors, so it's a good number of colors. It should meet most of your needs. I don't like that orange as much as I like that scarlet, so. And if you go outside the edge a little bit, we are going to do, I'm going to do a background like this so I can go right up to the edge and I can cover up any mistakes. Okay, so this is my first layer. I'm just pushing this first bit of color into the tooth of the paper. And you can use your finger, you can use the tools, you can use a blending stump. Even though this blending stump is pink, if I kind of wipe it off, I can still get in here and move that color around. Now there's a lot more white in there, and I'll come back later and get that in. Again, this is mostly black, so I don't really want to touch that because that will mess with a lot coming up. But I'm going to get the start of this, the first layer of this. So this is pushing it into the tooth. Another thing with oil pastel paper, you can layer a lot more with pastel paper than you can with, say like your sketchbook paper or copy paper. It just, that tooth, you can build up a lot more. Okay, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to, after I get this first layer, then I'll start adding the dimension. Don't forget the dimensional layer, because that's really flat. And if I didn't go in and put some shadows in there and highlights, then it's just going to be flat. And we really want dimension. All right, and he happens to have a red eye. And I call this a he. Does everybody know why? Because the male birds are the colorful birds. The females are pretty dull and a little boring looking. So I accidentally collapsed the tip of this. It should be pointy like that. You want to use it on its side so you don't collapse it. You can still use it, but having that nice point is nicer than having a blunt, stumpy tip. All right, so there's actually quite a bit of gray in here, so gray is probably going to be my base for this guy. Now, these aren't crayons, so you do want a good build up. Now, with your finger, you do have to watch that you don't have other colors on your finger. That can kind of cause some smudging. And you got to kind of hold the paper because you can kind of get carried away, and then all of a sudden you've got a big crease and whole corner wrinkled up. Your fingers will get sore. I do have these little things. It just didn't work all that nice. I mean, it works. So, it's an option. I'll send them home with you if you guys use them. Great. If not, just return it and along with your pastels, and no big deal. Okay, so even though I've got pink on this, I can still, oops, I didn't wipe it off. Wipe it off first. Paper towel, make sure you have a paper towel handy. You'll need it for your fingers, you'll need it for your stump. All right, and I'm gonna kind of make this a little more brown than it is, just because it's just a lot of gray. So we're gonna make this a little more brown. Again, we want to leave that rough edge. Circular motion seems to get it in the tooth the best because it's going in all directions. All right, so do a little bit gray around here. All right, I'm going to work on my background, so I need to pick a color that'll look really nice with this background. I'm going to go with this one. I think that might make that head pop a bit. I think this is it. This is the one. All right, so I'm going to go right up around my gray. I'm pushing it into that tooth. All right, so I'm going to go right up around the edge. You kind of have to rotate it so you have an edge or a point. You kind of start out and work your way towards it so you don't go too far, because these aren't really precise, so you're not going to be able to see your edge really well. Let's see. And the thicker you put it down, the easier it is to move. You know, if you try to just do a little teeny bit and cover it in, it's going to look dry like that. We want creamy. And you can see that. You put a nice layer down, and it's creamy. It's got movement. Again, your fingers might hurt at the end of this. We'll have to take a break every once in a while. This is not a quick project. This should take you probably closer to an hour, depending on how long it takes you to draw the bird. That would probably be, this isn't a quick medium. You can hear everything on my desk rolling. Alright, so that edge looks really nice. I like the kind of raw edge like that. We don't get to do that very often, so. This is actually a fingertip for hot gluing. So you put one on all your fingers if you're working with hot glue. So these are really handy in more ways than one. And you have to be careful. Okay, so you can kind of see I've been touching. Yeah, can't touch with dirty fingers. So keep your eye out, keep your fingers clean. Always just have a rag to wipe it off. Handy. Otherwise you're going to be a mess. Now I am covering that up, so it will be fine. But if that was on my finished part, I wouldn't be very happy. And I'm working in little sections because even though it doesn't dry, it does kind of set up in a way. So, and then just it still moves, but it's harder to move. I'm trying to get right into those little corners and right up to my edges. It's pretty nice actually for the big space. And can't forget this down here. And you could take the edge, but that kind of takes away from the organicness of it. So, all right, let me take a little break. All right, so now that I got that done, I am going to start on with some white. And make sure you clean it off before you get started. We don't want too much extra color on there, so make sure you have your paper towel handy. All right, so I am just going to start adding in some of this white. I'm going to go over this gray, and hopefully I'm able to create some depth with that. I am going to go in the direction of the feathers. All right, and I need... All right, so another thing, if you're going to create some like shadow areas, with oil pastels, you can't just add more color to make it darker. It's just the color it is. You can't create depth with the same color. So we do need to add in some shadows. So I'm just going to take a dark brown and add in some of those shadows, kind of smooth them in. Again, I am moving in the direction of the feather movement, just to create some of that. And then I'm just taking my smudging tool. Now this is the next day, so I can still move the oil pastel from yesterday. So don't think you need to do this all in one sitting. All right. All right, I'm gonna do this now. Yeah, doing quite a bit of pressure for the snow. And a different motion. Okay. All right. All right, here's black. All right. Let's see if I can get this black around his eye. Wish me luck. All right, so just kind of got some on there, and then I'm going to use a tool of some sort to kind of smooth it out. All right, and then I'm going to get black on the inside, so take your time. Put a little bit down, and then spread it with... Boy, they just turn it into life when you put the eyeball in, doesn't it? All right. We're getting there. All right, I'm going to do, again, impressionistic, so we can get away with not being perfect. You kind of see the I should have done the white first. All right, and then I'm going to do some. And I'm going to go over all right. Now we're going to get some feet in there, and then we'll be done. Oops, sorry. All right. Well, here we are. I think this is a pretty good place to stop. The last layer of feathers I didn't blend in. I just kind of left them. I just took the oil pastel and just made the, you know, the direction of the feathers, and I'm just going to leave those kind of raw and not blended. I think that just kind of adds the look to, adds the texture of the feather a little bit better. But that's it, guys. I really hope you enjoy this one. I think this oil pastels are tough, but they can be a lot of fun, and they are messy, but give them a shot. We're going to be in oil pastels for a couple weeks, actually 3 weeks, so I hope you have fun, and I can't wait to hello. All right, this week we are working on Impressionistic birds, so we are going to do a little bird in oil pastel. All right, so this is my trial run, and we are going to do one together. So you are going to need pastel paper. You can do it in your sketchbook if you have a mixed media sketchbook. If you don't have a mixed media sketchbook, and it'll tell you on the cover if it's a mixed media or if it's just a sketch or drawing. Sketch or drawing will not work. Mixed media will work. Otherwise, I will give you pastel paper in class. You will need a reference photo. So I'm going to do this little bluebird right here. And you will need probably the blending stump. You'll need that to go along as well. And you'll get one of these in class. So first I want to talk about blending, because as you can see, I've got a few other little things over here. The blending stump gives a nice smooth blend. It works into the paper really well. So does just using your finger, which is right here. Some of the other ones, not the greatest. I tried this little sponge right here, and it's kind of not the greatest. I tried this guy. This is a rubber something. I don't know what it is, but I found it in the art aisle. I tried that, and that worked pretty well. I tried this little gray thing. Not so great. It's kind of clumpy, kind of like the sponge. And then I tried just moving it with a regular pencil eraser, and that did not work at all. So I don't advise any of these. I did try cotton ball, and it was terrible. I don't even think it moved it at all. So none of those. This one and this one worked the best, but I will give you this one in class. All right, so in class we did an apple. So this is the apple that was my example for in class. So hopefully that helped you to work on blending and layering a little bit, because this is supposed to be really colorful and really creamy. We don't want to see, you know, kind of white through there. We don't want to see paper through there. We want solid color, nice and creamy, nice and vibrant. So we're going to get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to decide how we want our little guy to sit, and then you're going to get oil pastels in class. I forgot, this is part of it. You can borrow some of my oil pastels. Some belong to the school, some belong to me. So you need that and a paper towel, which I don't have. but I do have a scrap piece of paper that I can kind of clean off on. Alright, so I am going to kind of roughly sketch in my little bluebird here, and notice that he is sitting on a tree stump. We don't want a floating bird unless of course he's flying, but we want some sort of background, so make sure you put that in. So I'm just going, and we want to fill up a page, so I think I'm going to go this way and not include that little bird. So I am going to include more of the stump than I probably would have the other way. Well, I'm going to include the whole stump. I just won't put that other bird there. All right, so then I want to kind of, I'm just taking my light gray and we're going to kind of shape in our bird. Now I want him to be big, so I want him to come all the way up here. Now I can still change it if I find that the shape I did wasn't right. Now he is looking to the side, so his little beak is going to come. It's got a kind of a curved little beak, and then a fat little body. I probably should have came in a little bit more there. There we go. All right, so that is the first stage, and then I'm going to kind of block in. He's got this brown throat, so I don't want too much of my blue to go in there, because that's going to be a lighter area. Same with a little bit of this belly here. His wings are kind of coming in a little bit, so just kind of blocking that in. And then his eyeball. Now for the eyeball, it's really tough. Eyeballs are tough. So you will have the option of maybe taking some, like a black acrylic paint, and you can, I'll show you how to get that in there. All right, so we got a nice big bird. Okay, so I'm going to pick my colors. So obviously I'm going to go with that blue. Now this does not have to be perfect by any means. This is an impressionistic bird, so it is going to be kind of a little bit, the colors don't have to be perfect. They can be a little, you can play with them a little bit. All right, so I'm my two blues, and I want my white. I got my two browns. It's kind of a rusty, orangey, reddish color, and then kind of a little bit of white on his belly. And then I'll need them for the tree, of course. All right, so we are just going to dive right in. So the first thing I'm going to do is put down a light coat of my medium kind of blue. Okay, his beak kind of comes back. Leave out the eye. Now black is the last thing you ever want to do. You don't want to do black early. Oops, and look, I even kind of went outside the lines a little bit. We'll fix it. Don't do black. Don't do black. Black should be the very last thing you do. And now we're just going to kind of rough these in. Go a little bit with my darker hair because underneath it's a little bit darker. this is just our base layer. This is not our final anything. This is just getting the basic color on here. Kind of this dark little hood. All right. So we're going to start to blend this in. Again, this is just our base layer. Okay, stay away from the eye, but outline it. I'm trying to push the color into the tooth of the paper. So this is pastel paper, which is going to be toothier, so it's got a little bit more texture to it. So we're going to push that initial layer into the tooth. And since I put gray down, we're going to go right up to the edge of the gray. Kind of work that out of there. Now you can see these aren't the greatest blending stumps, but they will do the job. Just try not, don't push on them this way because that'll collapse them. Look, it even looks like a bird so far already. You can already see where, the little wings are starting to take shape. Now this blending stump might not look very good once you are done with it, so we'll see. You might have to get a new one next week because this one's already falling apart on me. Now I could use this rubber thing, which I really enjoy. It does smooth things around a lot, but I don't have enough of them to share with you guys. That really pushes it in. Okay, so we have our first layer of that. Now let's put our initial layer of our brown down. Remember, these are not crayons. These are oil pastels. This is just a different form of like oil paint. They're kind of like oil paints because they've got oil in them. So they don't ever really dry, unlike oil paint, which will dry after like 6 months. This will harden, but you'll still always be able to get color off of it. So when you do go and turn your paper in, make sure you take a scrap piece of paper and tape it down on top of here. So it doesn't matter what it is, just a piece of printer paper, just make sure you kind of tape it down over your work so that we don't just, kind of wrap the tape around there. We don't want you to smudge your work bringing it in. So yeah, covered up. It can be construction paper, it can be anything. Just make sure it's covered up. All right, so I got a little bit of brown in there. And now I'm just gonna start to build up layers. So I'm going to come back in, and all my feathers are kind of moving downward, so I want all of my strokes to kind of be downward. So when I go to blend, I want to kind of bring those strokes the same way. Okay, so then I'm going to bring in some blue and kind of bring them downward as well. So when I blend them, I'm going to blend them in the same direction that his feathers are going. So these ones are lighter, but that's okay. I'm going to start blocking them in. And they have little white tips. Actually, I think we'll use gray. They look more gray. So I can come in and I can start putting gray over those. Kind of blend them a little bit. Okay, so this one's going to kind of go that way. Gray. That way. No, they do not have to be perfect. They don't have to be the exact number, you know, in as this little guy has. He's got a little black in there too, so. Okay, so we're just going to kind of layer him up. Back and forth, and then we'll go in and blend. This one's a little bit bigger. I think I'll make this dark space a little bit bigger. So obviously it's not exactly what's there, but it's close. It's an impression. If you didn't have this next to that picture, you would never know. It still looks like a bird. I don't know if you remember, but the way to kind of clean these and fix these is sandpaper. So you are welcome to run these on sandpaper if you need to fix whatever is going on with mine. Oh well. Alright, I could take, let's see, I don't have a dark gray, so I'll save the black till the very end. This is kind of gray and blue in here. Kind of blend those together. And then his forehead's a little, I think it's just the sun reflecting off. But I'll give him a nice little gray cap. And you can even use some white. And feel free to use your fingers if you want to blend too. They actually kind of probably work better. But you need a separate finger for every color. So keep that in mind. And then he's got some feathers that kind of come down his throat. I will probably still use this blue even though it's kind of filthy. And mine actually just collapsed like I told you not to do. Blending stumps are cheap, so if you need to pick one up, you can probably even just, oh, see, I'm getting blue in there. Oh well. Cover it up. So this is about adding layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. We want nice creamy color, and you're not going to get creamy color with one layer. So I'm sure a lot of you would have been tempted to stop. We first got the initial color down, and you're like, "Oh, it's good. It looks like a bird." Keep going. Keep going. This should take you, I don't know, half hour, hour. shouldn't be quick little 5 minutes. All right, let's see. Tail. Really darken up this bottom feather. Use your finger if you need to. And then you can go back over. The nice thing about oil pastels is light will stack up on top of dark. So get a nice amount of oil pastels on there. Don't be skimpy. I want it to look like tail feathers. White is nice because it does blend things. But you definitely want to go white over a color, not so much color over white. It just doesn't get the same kind of effect. It's kind of muddier if you go light over, or dark over light. You want to go light over dark. I think that's what you want to do. Let's see. Dark over. All right, so we're going to go, that kind of makes that brown a little nicer. And that really, not quite the same. So, just depends on the look you want to go for. All right. So, and this is mixed media paper. This one I'm using, it's got a little bit of texture to it, unlike drawing paper. Drawing paper is smooth. So mixed media is a good one to use. Otherwise, we have the oil pastel paper, which there are some colors, so some of you are going to be able to use colors. All right, so I'm looking at his beak, and I see it's kind of a grayish blue. So I'm going to take this dirty bit right here and see if I can't kind of make something with that. We'll go with that, and then the rest of it will be the black. All right, I'm gonna use this. I really do like this tool. I wish I had enough for all of you. It really pushes it right in there. All right. Now I'm going to add a little bit of background. It's kind of a forest green. Let's see if this is the color I want. Maybe too dark. I don't know. Should we go nice and dark? Maybe we will. So I'm going to kind of come right up and clean up my edges here. Now, part of this is I don't want you to go right to the edge. I want you to leave a rough border. I'll show you what that means here in a second. So I want you up to the edge of your bird. but I don't want you to the edge of the paper. So I want you to leave like a 1/4 inch. Does not have to be perfect. The background doesn't even need to be as saturated. So background, actually, you could probably just use your finger and really start rubbing it in there until you get close to the bird. Then you're going to want to come in and clean up our edges. Where things got really messy, I can clean them up. And I can go back with my finger. Then I'm going to come back in. Now notice I still haven't done my black yet because black is invasive. It will find its way. Whoops, am I bumping you? Sorry. It will find its way into everything if you put it on too early. So do not use your black until the very end. All right. I don't know if that was the right color background or not, but we'll make it work. There's a little bit of gray in here too, so it's kind of a green-gray background. Okay, your hands are going to get messy, so don't worry about it. Your hands will wash off. I know some people don't like to get messy, but it's all for the sake of art, right? All right. Still messy. Let's go up the side. Keep rotating it so you have a nice sharp edge when you come near your bird. You can always use this side too if you want for the detail work. Oil pastel is not really a detail medium. It works much better for kind of impressionistic art, not anything super realistic. You can, and people do, but it's not. I think I'm going to kind of cut off this. Cut that off a little bit. Change that a little bit so we can have that border. You want to work in areas at a time, because if you try to cover your whole page and then go back in and blend, things start to kind of set up. Not terribly, but they do get hard to move if you let them sit for too long. So around my bird, I'm going to come in here. On the edge of my stump. know, maybe I'll try and figure out a way to send these home. I don't know. I suppose I could cut them in half, but not all the ends are ideal. Sometimes you'll get little scraps of oil. Alright, I'm going to take a gray and I'm going to add some gray in here again too. Kind of combine that. Alright, here we go again. Yeah, as far as these blending stumps, I think I have nicer ones in the box than the one I was showing you. The one I was showing you is one of the really cheap ones that I found laying around. I think I have nicer ones in the box that will definitely hold up better, so make sure to hand those out. Alright, let's get our little tree stump here. So I am just going to kind of randomly put in colors. Now this blue, you gotta be really careful because it will dry into the brown. I probably should have done it first, but you know, what fun is that? Same with the green, it might dry again, so. Alright, so this is a cedar tree, so I am going to kind of, it's got really, really rough bark. I'm going to try, I haven't done it yet. Oh, look, and I didn't leave my border. It's alright. Try and kind of mimic it. Alright, so it's kind of, let's see, there's some, we're going to go with this darker one. Kind of fill in the gaps a little bit. Alright, what else could I use? I'm going to use kind of this mustardy. There's kind of a lot of colors in this tree. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to fill in between wherever I see little pockets of blue that is my background shade of my paper. Fun thing about using colored paper is, you know, you don't have to work as hard from that stark white. You already have kind of a base of color. Let's see, I think my other set had the army green. I'm going to put in this dark blue, or brown, sorry. Kind of under him as his shadow. You know, because we don't want him just sitting on nothing. So there's a dark shadow over here. Seems to be some shadows kind of sparse throughout there. Let's see, I have a cream. I don't have cream in this set. Okay, well, add a little bit in here. And a little white. It's kind of a little brighter over here. I'm just going to kind of model this side because this side is brighter. And then I'm going to take my tan color and kind of go over it again. Now I'm pressing fairly hard with this layer, because I probably will not blend this with my finger. I don't really want it to be super blended, but I want to get into the tooth of the paper, so I'm going to press harder with my oil pastel and let those colors just kind of mess together. Again, this is Impressionistic. This is not realism. As much as I love realism, it's just difficult with oil pastels. So even in this dark area, I'm going to kind of go over that and drag it out a little bit. Don't want any really big holes there. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm going to get this a little bit more. You get kind of those crumblies, just kind of roll them onto your paper. And you can just kind of work them in. Oop, try not to do that to the edge of your paper. Whoop. Okay, now, as you can see, I'm getting a little messy. Now is when I get to go in with my black. Oh, I might go in with a little white here. Let's kind of highlight these guys. Got some little wispies there. One of those I don't have to blend. I can just alright. So I'm going to go with my black. So the underside of his beak is black. Okay, so I didn't go all the way to the end, so I'm going to take my blending stump and I'm going to kind of fill it in and smooth it out and bring it all the way to the end. Okay, see how I did that? I know you guys can do it. I have confidence in you. And then his eyeball, because it's really not an animal until it has an eye, right? It looks so weird without an eye. Okay, and we might be able to get, clean off your white before you try this. Now I did give you permission to use paint if you want, but look at that. You can get white out of it. It's probably a little higher than I wanted. Let's try. Drag that black. There we go. He's got a white dot in his eye. Alright, so there we go. There's our Impressionistic bird. Lots of color. I know you guys can do it. Alright, so you guys have a great time. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you on Friday.